Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After running through the news you need to know about, we're running through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. A lot to talk about in today's show. It's been a rough season for, I think, all Dolphins fans. One of the worst ones in a weird way. It's been tough. It's been a tough season. But yeah, let's get into the news you need to know about. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Miami Dolphins are preparing to go forward with Teddy Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson as their starter. I don't think that, obviously, Teddy's suffering an injury of a dislocated finger or a broken finger in the game against the Patriots. So they're going to go forward with, it seems like they're probably going to go forward with Skylar. I don't know what the mixed messages is about. It seems kind of weird. If I was Mike, I would definitely go forward with Skylar. I think he's just outplayed him, whether it was in preseason or even in the regular season. I feel like he's done a better job than Teddy has. There's a lot of issues in this game, especially going back and looking at some of the stuff. The passing game was pretty poor, especially in the second half. A lot of missed opportunities that weren't even looked at, which was strange. Especially since Tyreek Hill is such a great player, you would think that you would at least look at him in some situations. They left easily, and I know for a fact that they left easily a 7 points on the field. One of the weirder plays of the game is where Tyreek Hill was wide open in the middle of the field for a touchdown, and Teddy ended up throwing it to Jalen Waddle, who was also open, but it was an inaccurate throw, and then we ended up having to, I think, the next play we missed a field goal. And then Skylar, when he came in, he missed some reads too, looking back at the game. He had Trent Sherfield for a really big play, and he didn't see him. It was like on a deep corner out. He was wide open. There was a lot of busted coverages that just were not taken advantage of because of the poor quarterback play. But again, this has been a theme, and this is one of the reasons that this team has lost 5 games in a row, is the quarterback play has been really poor. And I know a lot of people want to blame it on Mike McDaniel for some reason, but it's just not true. It's the facts are the facts. I mean, if you just go back and look at those games, almost every single one of them, with the exception being the Bills game, the quarterback play was really poor. And even in the Bills game, not to get on to Tua for little things, because he did score 29 points on the road in Buffalo. And there's a lot of different things that have gone into the 5-game losing streak. There's 2 big ones that I think, or there's 3 big ones that I think are legit. They are the reasons why we lost 5 games in a row. It's been quarterback play, I think, is the number one culprit. I think the defense, how that's been handled, and the play calling has been terrible all year. That's contributed to no turnovers, no big plays on defense, and that's contributed to the 5-game losing streak. And then easily, injuries. I think all 3 of those things have been the biggest reason for it. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at it, we were starting our 3rd-string quarterback and a backup quarterback who has played bad all year, even in preseason. So it is what it is. But I think the number one issue that this team suffered, and this is even when Tua wasn't playing, and it's not because we didn't run the football more. It's because the quarterbacks aren't playing good football. And the funny thing about it, and it's not funny, but it's just kind of, it just sucks when you think about it, is the pass protection and the game planning, and the coaching staff have done such a good job of covering up a lot of the issues, especially on the offensive side of the football, the offensive coaching staff. They've done a great job of covering up those issues as best they can. Kendall Lamb was starting a tackle in this game. Greg Littleton came in for him against one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL, and didn't play bad. Like the pass protection was actually pretty good through this 5-game losing streak. The worst it's been all year was against the Vikings. That was as bad as it got, and that got fixed during the second half. So this coaching staff, it's not their fault, especially on the offensive side of the football. I think they're really good at what they do, and it just sucks that the quarterbacks, have not taken advantage of that. Whether that was Tua, Skyler, or Teddy, they've just played really bad over the last 2 months. And there's no other way to say it. I mean, the pass protection has been good. They have the weapons. The run game has been way better as the year has gone on. And again, I think the things that hurt the most is the fact that the pass game has not been taken advantage of like it needs to be. There are people open that need to be hit. And then to couple that with the fact that the pass protection isn't bad, that it only falls on one's shoulders, and that's the quarterback. We're not getting turnovers right now. We're not getting short fields for the most part. In that New England game, that was like the best field position we've had on a consistent basis throughout the entire year, because the special teams has been terrible too. And that still wasn't taken advantage of because of the quarterback play. And something that else is missing, especially with Teddy and Skyler, more so Teddy, is his playmaking ability is just too poor. He doesn't really make a lot of plays. I think one of the issues with Skyler, especially in this game, you could tell, for whatever reason, the game was a little bit too big for him. You could tell he was nervous. I don't know why. Maybe, I shouldn't say that. He's a rookie being stepped into a situation where the entire locker room is playing. You could feel the tension. I mean, it's a playoff game, basically. So you could tell that affected him, and that affected his play. But he looked bad. I mean, the 4th and down, dude, I almost like walked through a wall. I'm not even joking. When he dumped it down on 4th down, I almost lost my mind. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Like, the quarterback play has just been so poor, to the point where it's really frustrating. The defense has made me upset, even though they've played, and it's not even their fault for the most part. It's the injuries and just the poor creativity on defense. We just can't come up with big plays. It's really just the individuals that have to be extraordinary for us to do anything on defense half the time. And we're not confusing anybody, that's for sure. So that's been frustrating, but it's just the quarterback play has been by far the most frustrating thing. And this roster is too good. This is the best team that I've seen, and that's not even close in the last 10 years. It's not even close. And with all the injuries. And I think it's the most well-coached, on the offensive side of the football. It's the best coached offense that we've had in 20 plus years. I mean, we're ranked 3rd, I think, at least in this game. At this point we were, in passing the football. And our quarterbacks have not played well in the last 5 games. So I think that's really kind of just sums up the frustration, just what really has transpired for the last 5 games is the things that we just talked about. I mean, they literally, because of the quarterback play in this game and in the Packers game, cost us points in the game, and it's very unfortunate. And it's not like there's nobody open or there's just nothing to be had. They really they just have not taken advantage of it. I mean, even on Tua's picks against the Packers, all 3 of them there were people open. If you watch the all 22 film, or even if you just watch the normal film, like you just watch the play normally, there are people wide open on those plays, and it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating that those things were not being taken advantage of. And as much as I love Tua and how well he's played at times this year, they're going to have to really, and I said this last week, but they're going to have to really treat this with great care, because they could really waste this roster if they mess around too much. They're going to have to look into the quarterback market as much as they can to a point. Obviously, whoever it is, like, there's so many different options. I don't know if they could get, like, let's just say in a crazy world, somehow Lamar Jackson is either, I think at the very least he's going to be tagged and traded. I don't think he's going to be a free agent. That would be crazy if that's the fact. But if that situation does arise, or even someone like Aaron Rodgers, I think they're going to have to think about it. They're definitely going to have to think about it. Now, if I was in their shoes, I think I would be actively pursuing certain situations like that. And I would definitely at least try to execute, especially if we know that the Jets are probably going to be in the market. If that did come up, I think they would have no other choice than to seriously consider it. Tom Brady's the only one that I wouldn't do in terms of the big name guys. I think that would be stupid to. It's too big of a gamble to get Tom for, let's just say, max 2 years and get rid of Tua. I think that's stupid. I think if it's someone like Rodgers or especially Lamar, you're at least going to get 4 years out of them. And I think that's a good enough trade-off. But to get someone who's already at the end of his career and who really hasn't played, it just wouldn't be worth it to me. But it's something that they're going to have to seriously consider. I think I think if you don't look at it that way, I think you're crazy. They've invested a lot into this roster to make it work. I think the silver lining to it, if you want to stick to it, is that, okay, when he was healthy, he was playing good football. There's a few things that we can add to the roster, and maybe we get healthy on defense, and we win 1 or 2 more games and we're in the playoffs. Now, we can still make the playoffs. I'm not saying this is like, but whether we make it or not, and even if we do make it, that's successful. But we didn't win more games than last year. We're hopefully win the same amount of games as we did last year. So we didn't improve in the win column. And what was the biggest reason for that? It was the quarterback position. We fixed all the other issues that we've had. I mean, we really did see that. We fixed all the issues. We fixed all the excuses that were not excuses, but legitimate issues that the offense had over the last 4, like since Tua has been here, and we fixed it. And the wins didn't change. So again, it comes back to that, and it is what it is. There's really nothing else I can say about that. I think that is something they're seriously going to have to consider. Now, moving on from this, and I do want to talk about the Patriots game, as much as I don't want to talk about it. There's a few things that I just have to just get through, because good Lord, there was just a lot of... that game was hard to watch, so let's just put it that way. But especially since it was such a big game, and the Dolphins just had terrible luck this year, like really bad luck. Really, really bad luck. But before we get into that, we have to finish the news. There's some other stuff that obviously is important. Teron Armstead, Bradley Chubb, and Xavier Howard obviously missed the previous game. We didn't really know why Xavier missed it. He apparently had some kind of collision in practice where both players collided their knees. So that's obviously sucks, but they're at best questionable right now. There hasn't been really any other update. Mike said it's still kind of up in the air. So hopefully that they can come back in this game, just for one last push. And it's not, depending on what happens in the Cincinnati and Buffalo game, the Bills could legitimately be playing for something. So if that is the case, then the Dolphins have a really good chance of getting into the playoffs, because the Patriots are really bad. I mean they really are. They almost lost to a team that is not only severely injured, but cycled quarterbacks during the game. So they're not very good. So that should be a pretty easy path to the playoffs, in my opinion. But it all depends on what happens in some of those games. We'll see. And the Dolphins obviously have to still take care of business against the Jets. So that still has to happen. So it's not an easy layup or anything, but there is still a chance. And we talked about those injuries. And then obviously the last news story is Tua would come back for the playoffs if we made it. Which, if we did make it, that could be his saving grace, honestly. And even then, I'm not going to lie. Let's say he comes back and has a really good game. They still have to go get a quarterback because he just gets hurt too much to have him come back and just be. And Skyler, I need to see more, because from what I've seen in the regular season, there were flashes in the Vikings game that were really, really good. He made some really nice throws in that game. In this Patriots game, there were really nice moments too. Some of the other stuff, I think the nerve stuff was, I guess it was understandable. Because, the commentating kept pointing out that he struggles throwing on the run, which hasn't been an issue for him, at least since he's been a Dolphin. In preseason and especially in that Vikings game, he did really well throwing on the run. But there were moments even in the Jets game where it seemed like he was a little bit overwhelmed, and that worries me a little bit. So again, it's something that they're definitely going to have to not consider, but strongly go through the process of looking into it, I think is the best way to put that. All right, so let's finish. We're done with the news. That's it. We'll talk about this briefly. I just want a quick overview of the game. So obviously the Dolphins fall to the Patriots 21-23. They fall to 8-8 after being 8-3 after the bye week, which is just bananas. It just sucks to even say that. Let's get into, and I forgot to mention the interception to Tyreek Hill. That's not on Sky. I mean, yeah, it was a bad throw, but Tyreek Hill is one of the best receivers I've ever seen in my life, so he could easily catch that. So that is what it is. And then obviously with the Raheem Mostert stuff, wasn't great. And I saw some fans saying, well, why didn't the Dolphins run the ball more? You guys are out of your mind, okay? Seriously, especially in that second half. Anybody who thinks that's crazy, I'm sorry, but that's just not. We were not winning the line of scrimmage in the second half, and especially since we tried to establish the run game. I mean, Jeffrey Wilson had 15 yards, 45 yards, averaged 3 yards a carry. And that's almost 2 yards a carry, by the way. It's barely 3 yards a carry. And then Mostert he pretty much did the same. So they need to fix that right tackle position for sure. I honestly don't think they need, like, a guard would be a luxury. And maybe if they can get I wouldn't be mad at it, but definitely a right tackle. That's something they desperately need. Anyway, the overview of this game is just one play, and it was the most frustrating play of the game. I mean, the Dolphins outgained the Patriots in this game 333 yards to 249. They passed the ball almost 100 yards better than the Patriots, pretty much 100 yards better. They ran the ball in terms, they literally, yards per play. They had more first downs than the Patriots. They did everything better than the Patriots, but they just didn't win the game. The reason they lost is because of the pick six, which was one of the dumbest reads I've ever seen. It's a defense that everybody runs. It's a very simple concept. Now they dressed it up a little bit, but it's the same thing. Obviously it's a third and very long situation. You're just gonna put everybody at the first down. If you do pick up a first down in that situation, it's likely because the defense messed up and busted a coverage. They didn't do that. So what does Teddy do? He does exactly what the defense wants you to do, which is throw it at literally right at the first down marker into double coverage. The guy was never open. I don't know what he thought was going to... I don't know. He's a veteran quarterback. That's the reason he was playing in this game. You would think he would know better. But he didn't, and that was the difference in the game. And not only that, it wasn't he just played bad throughout the game. He made some nice throws. But I mean, even the one that Tyreek Hill didn't get his feet in bounds on that play, that was not a good throw. That was a bad throw. So again, this comes back to the quarterback play, but the biggest difference in the game was the pick, and the pick was awful. I mean, it was really, really bad. The Patriots have struggled to move the ball. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this right now. It's a lot harder to score touchdowns when you're down. It's not even close, especially late in a game when you haven't been able to move the ball all game. And yeah, that's a big deal. So it just sucks. It really does. Like, it's very, very unfortunate. And that was the biggest difference in this game. Defensively, they played great. They came up big in big moments. They got the offense a lot of really good field position that just didn't do jack squat with. I mean, I broke a few things when on the Tyreek Hill dropped pick. That was rough, to say the least. Like, that was a really nice opportunity that they just completely blew. And, you know, I will say that all year, and this has just been a theme, 3rd and goal has been terrible for this team. I don't know if we've gotten a stop on 3rd and goal this season. Just anything that can happen has happened to them. I mean, we would have won the Bills game. I mean, there's so many games. Even in the first time we played the Bills, that there was a couple like really insane plays that should not have happened on 3rd and 4th and goal. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. The quarterback play is the reason we lost back-to-back games for sure, and honestly, the reason we lost 4 out of the 5 games. And it's very, again, annoying to watch because their roster is really good. But anyway, moving on to the fan Q&A. And Josh Boyer's not doing himself any favors, man. Like, it is so annoying every week. Like, him going up to the podium, man, oh, God. And I love when he's like, you know, we just try to put the best players in the position to be the most successful. And it's like, no, you don't. You really, really don't. You really don't. You run the same, and he's like, oh, it's game plan specific. No, it's not. It's the same thing every week. It really is. Like, and this is against, you know, an offense that's been atrocious all season. So I'm happy that they played good, but it's like, dang, man, it was against the worst offense in the end. And again, it's even more of a reason why the heck is Teddy Bridgewater throwing that pass in that situation. We were up by more than a field goal. Like, what are you doing? It just melts your brain when you think about it. Anyway, I hope Teddy has not earned the right to play football for us. I hope it's Skylar Thompson. So let's get into the fan Q&A in the show. It's kind of a short show so far. I mean, and again, before we get into the fan Q&A, the Mike McDaniel stuff is ridiculous. It really is. I hope and pray that they don't or they do. I don't think they're gonna fire Mike. But I hope we can retain people like Wes Welker. I think obviously like our offensive line coach, and even Darrell Bevel. Like, I hope we can retain them. Because they've done a really nice job this season. Dude, I loved when Darrell Bevel went up to Skylar and was like, what are you doing? Like, that's like, I was like, thank you. I'm glad someone's yelling at him. What are you doing, dude? Just 2 brain dead plays by the quarterbacks. Like, their brain literally switched off. I don't, and again, Teddy's supposed to be this veteran quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. Oh, and he got a high completion percentage. Dude, no. This dude, oh my God, dude. He doesn't make any plays for us, and then he loses the game for us. Wow. Well, what is that? It's a really bad quarterback. That's what that is. Anyway, but God dang, man, it's just tough. So let's get into the fan Q&A. This first question comes from Beef. He says, Skaggs, I don't mean to be cynical, but I am exhausted of having to trust a new coach or player that's supposed to fix all our problems right now. I'm focusing on change in management or ownership to turn the team around. What do you think? Because if we have the same ownership and management, we're stuck in our bad ways. New players and coaches never seem to be the answers. Always ride or die and go Dolphins. I agree with some of the things you're saying. I don't. I think the management side of it, there have been really bad decisions made. I'm not gonna lie in terms of personnel, but the drafting has been good, and I think the free agency actually has been pretty good as well. It's not their fault. I think the owner, and I have not usually said this, but especially since he cost us a first round pick, and some of the stupid things that he's done, and how he handled the Brian Flores situation, that could have been handled a lot better. Like, I know a lot of people, and looking back on it, like, there was like legitimate reasons to fire Brian, but the way he did it was really stupid. So yeah, like, the way Stephen Ross has handled certain situations, especially in recent memory, has been pretty poor. But I don't think he's a Robert Sarver or a Dan Snyder. I don't think he's like that. I think you definitely can win with him as your owner. And who knows how much, like when I guess when you have an opportunity to get Tom Brady and Sean Payton, if that's like, oh, that's what cost us a first round pick, it's like, okay, then I'm not going to be that mad about it. Like, it's not a stupid thing to pursue. Let's put it that way. So I don't think it's the management thing side of it. I think it's a it's one big one. It's the quarterback play has been bad for the last 25 years. Ever since 13 retired, it's been terrible. I mean, even in the early 2000s, those teams should have done a lot better than they did. Those were good rosters that should have went farther than they did. And they didn't because the quarterbacks were so bad. So it always comes back to that. It's really that position that has let us down over the years. And I think that's pretty sad and it's true. This next question comes from a user. He says, how much faith do you have in Skylar Thompson to lead us to a win on Sunday? I think with an entire game plan designed for him, when that happened against the Vikings, he looked really good. So I think with that in mind, and him not just being thrown into the fire, I think that I'm looking forward to it. I want to see if he can kind of bounce back from last game, because at the end of the game, he put a nice drive together. Hopefully he can carry some of that into this game. But he's shown me that he has promise, and I want to see that against the Jets. Hopefully he'll get to play the entire game, because every time someone's had to come in for Tua, someone gets hurt during the game. But I think Skylar is a much better player than Teddy is at this point in his career. He moves in the pocket a lot better. He's actually got a great feel for the game. It's really just like, it just seems that sometimes the game overwhelms him a little bit. Like the moment's a little bit too big, but we'll see if that changes in this game, and maybe he can kind of calm down a little bit, because he does have a great feel for the game. He's got a great arm. He does go through his progressions. He doesn't ever really seem too confused where to go with the football, which is a good thing. And again, he has a great feel in the pocket. And he can move because he's an athletic dude. So there's a lot of things that Skylar does well, but we just need to kind of see it. And he can throw in rhythm within an offense too. It's not like he's holding the football. This next question comes from Rock. Rock. He says, should the Dolphins consider bringing Tom Brady in for a year or two and keep Tua as a backup? No, I don't think I've thought about that. That doesn't help anything. Tua's played 3 years of football. It's just not going to really help him to sit on the bench. Like, he needs to play more. So there's really nothing. I mean, Darrell Bevell's one of the best quarterback coaches in the NFL. That should be enough to kind of teach him. But yeah, I mean, I think, again, there's a lot of interesting scenarios that I would consider. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. I don't. It doesn't bother me. But there are like 4 names that I think they should strongly consider. Them being Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, I think there's only 3. I would strongly consider Derek Carr. I think, especially in Oakland, and especially with this offense, he's gotten a bad rap, at least this last season. But this is a player that I think has played a lot of really good football in his career. very similar to Kirk Cousins, and I think he is a franchise guy. So that would be interesting. Maybe they try to see if they could. If they do that, then obviously Tua. I know a lot of people would argue that maybe the trade-off for him to Tua isn't great, but I don't know. I think I would argue against it. I do like him as a quarterback a lot, so those are the names that I would at least consider if I was the general manager. Anybody else, like the Daniel Joneses of the world and the Sam Darnolds of the world, those guys obviously are not good enough to even consider that. And the draft is obviously it's not but it's off the table when it comes to that. There's not really any high-end guys that they could get. Maybe there's a hidden gem in the rough, but there's not really anybody that I could sit here and say, okay, that guy. And then I think Tua himself is still an option, obviously. He's played really good football this year at times. I would say for most of the year. And it's just injuries and inconsistencies have really driven that down. But that is it, guys. Oh my God. It sucks. But there's an easy road out, really. It just depends on what they do. This is going to be one of the busiest quarterback off seasons in the history of the NFL, if not the biggest, honestly. So there's opportunity there. And they could definitely improve on defense and get healthier on that side. And they have a really good, talented offense and defense, even though that's not showing up on Sundays. At least offensively it is. But defensively, the numbers are just not where they need to be. And I'm looking forward to them getting rid of and bringing in someone who can really showcase what this unit is capable of. Because I do think this defense is special and can be special. But offensively, it's already, we know that they can be special. All you gotta do is look at the film. They need to add a slot receiver or a tight end. But to get someone who can be the third guy, or even someone like a Josh Jacobs who can come out of the backfield and catch 40, 50 balls in a year. They need another guy, and that's it. They're good. The offensive line, if you can get a right tackle, that's great. Honestly, I'm not mad at the rest of it. I think you can win a lot of games with that offensive line. So, but the right tackle position should be strongly considered. And I would keep Brandon Shell as a backup because he's done a great job. Whether that's Armstead gets hurt or someone like that, he can come in. I think Austin Jackson is pretty much a done deal. I think one of the weirdest things to say, and I can't even believe I'm saying this, is Igbenogany. He's actually turned his entire career around. So that's great. Kader Kohu, fantastic. He's going to be a great player for many years to come. This is why I'm saying the defense has there's a really good core there. And they just need to get someone to get it out of them. And I think they can do that pretty easily. So that's it. It's not one of those situations where it's like, oh my God, we need to completely change. It's not that. It's literally two things. And if they can get that right, then this is I think, not only a playoff team, but a Super Bowl contending team. So yeah, there's still a lot of really nice things to look forward to if you're a Dolphins fan. And again, Sunday, if things go right, we could find ourselves in a wild card playoff game. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.